Let's turn our attention to the United States and China agreeing on a deal to slash trade tariffs on each other for 90 days. Earlier, the US Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, held a news conference in Geneva discussing the latest terms.
We have reached an agreement on a 90-day pause and substantially moved down the tariff levels. Both sides on the reciprocal tariffs will move their tariffs down 115%.
Let's bring in our Asia correspondent, Helen Ann Smith. Helen Ann, there's a temptation to talk about this in great kind of laudatory terms, but is it a big win, or is it just calming down a hornet's nest that didn't need to be kicked in the first place?
Well, I think it's a relatively significant achievement, especially in the context that there was a huge amount of scepticism going into this weekend, that the two sides could bridge this enormous gulf that existed between them. So the fact that they've agreed anything, I think, is more than just a symbolic win. It's a political win too. Whether it's an economic win is a slightly different question. Look, it's a lot of numbers being bandied around. Let's break it down. Essentially what this deal means is that the reciprocal tariffs that existed on each other, the ones that had been constantly tit for tat raised over the last month or so, they've been brought down to a base level of 10%. Now, most goods will face more than 10%. Chinese goods being sold to America, they face an additional 20%. That was a whole separate levy that was put in place to try and target the sale of fentanyl. There's other tariffs that exist left over from Trump's first term that President Biden never did away with. So actually, once you add it up, you're probably talking about sort of 30, 40, perhaps 50% on a lot of Chinese goods being sold to America. And there are other measures sort of for goods coming the other way as well. So we're still talking about a high level of tariffs. But look, the big numbers, that 145% sort of baseline tariff that Chinese goods were facing being sold to America, that has been reduced. And I think we can't overstate just how sort of notable that is politically that they were able to reach that deal. And certainly it's helped calm down the markets as well. I think it will have taken the edge off some of the more sort of catastrophic economic impacts that were sort of set to start playing out in the two respective countries as well. Certainly in China, the conversation was about millions of job losses, huge hits to GDP. And on the American side, we were hearing stories about how the shelves would start to be empty, massive inflation. So I think both sides have been able to achieve sort of the elimination of the worst effects, if you like. But look, I think regardless of the fact that they've been able to talk, and I think that is an achievement, I think both will continue to distrust each other, and that's really important because I think certainly from the Chinese side, there was all this talk about looking for other markets, about moving away from America. And although Scott Bessent said in that press conference that they wanted to avoid decoupling, I think that gradual moving away from each other, a gradual decoupling, is sort of still on the cards because I think just what little trust did remain between the two has been all but eliminated by this whole affair. So I think going forward, it will not necessarily be plain sailing. But look, the fact that these two, with such huge differences between them, such cultural differences in terms of negotiation, both not wanting to be seen to lose face, both being wanted to see to win, the fact that they were able to sit down and achieve anything, I think is very significant.